Discover the incredible 2-hour journey of heartwarming Native American cooking without modern kitchen appliances. Sarah stood in her modest kitchen, memories swirling like the fragrant steam rising from the pot. Today was the day she would finally take a stand. The Harvest Festival, looming on the horizon, promised a chance to showcase her family's legacy. If only the townsfolk could see past the scars of history, past the stereotypes that bound her people. With each stir of the wooden spoon, she felt her ancestors beside her, urging her to rise against the tide of forgetfulness. 10-year-old Lily clutched a blend of spices, her eager eyes reflecting the vibrant colors: cumin, coriander, and a touch of something magical. 8-year-old Ben, with flour on his cheeks, danced to the rhythm of their laughter. In those heartwarming moments, the weight of their struggles slipped away, replaced by the sounds and smells of tradition. Sarah's heart expanded with hope. They would share something special, something that connected them to generations before. But beneath the smiles lay a truth she couldn't ignore. Despite her determination, the cold stares from some townsfolk cut deeper than the knife she used to chop the vegetables. It was hard not to internalize the whispers. What do they know about real cooking? She took a deep breath, her tight chest betraying her fear that their culinary artistry might go unrecognized yet again. As she played out the possibilities in her head, a dish brimming with family history, her mind drifted to her past. The memories of her father flooded her thoughts, a man she had always admired but never understood. An echo of bitterness lingered as she recalled his departure, leaving her to navigate life's storms alone. And now, like some ghost from her past, he stood at her doorstep, the familiarity of his face mixed with the pain of unresolved hurt. "Sarah, I've come back," his voice wavered, barely piercing the barrier she'd constructed over the years. She grappled with emotions swirling within her, fighting the instinct to push him away. In his eyes, she caught fleeting glimpses of regret, but also of determination. She saw the man who could help her reconcile her fragmented family. But could she trust him? As festival day drew near, anxiety twisted in her stomach. Yet hope ignited within her. Standing by her children, she had everything to prove to herself, to her father, to Riverbend. As they mixed together ingredients, their laughter burst forth like the comforting bubble of hope. "This will be the year!" Sarah exclaimed, grinning at her little helpers. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The day of the Harvest Festival dawned bright and beautiful. Sunlight poured over the mountains as the townsfolk gathered, laughter mingling with the sense of autumn. Sarah felt her chest tightening again, only this time, it wasn't from fear. Today, she was determined. Hand in hand with her children and facing her father, they were a team. As they approached the judges' table, her heart thundered in her ears. "Here we go," she whispered to her kids. With each step, she felt both hope and resentment fighting for space within her. Would the crowd embrace the flavors of her ancestors, or would they retreat into their familiar prejudices? And as her father's grip on her hand tightened, Sarah sensed that the past was finally ready to be confronted. The moment had arrived, and with it, an uncertain future full of possibilities. As they reached the judges' table, a wave of memories washed over Sarah. She recalled her childhood days spent at the festival, watching her mother showcase recipes passed down through generations. The vibrant colors of the dishes, the laughter that echoed in the crisp air, it was all a part of her. Would today mark a continuation of that legacy? The judges sat behind their long table, a mix of familiar and unfamiliar faces. Some were kind, others indifferent. Sarah took a deep breath, steadying herself. She glanced at Lily, whose hands fidgeted nervously with the apron strings. Ben's eyes sparkled with that childlike enthusiasm that made everything feel new and exciting. "Just remember," she said softly to them, "this is about sharing who we are. No matter what happens, we've already won by being here together." the moment arrived when they were asked to present their dish. It wasn't just food on a plate. It was a story, a tapestry woven from threads of sacrifice, resilience, and love. The aroma of the stew filled the air, dancing with the faint notes of roasted corn and wild herbs. As Sarah scooped a generous portion onto a plate, she felt the weight of her ancestors with her. They trusted her to honor their traditions. "Today, we're bringing you a taste of our heritage," she began, her voice steady despite the trembling in her hands. "This is a stew made from recipes my family has cherished for generations. It's not just a meal, it's a celebration of who we are." The judges leaned in, their expressions shifting as they took a bite. She felt her heart racing, each beat echoing the thousand worries in her mind. Would they appreciate the rich flavors? Did they understand the love behind every ingredient? Lily looked up at her, eyes wide with excitement. "Mom, they're smiling," Ben added, bouncing slightly on the balls of his feet. But just as Sarah started to feel a glimmer of hope, a voice rang out from the back, dripping with skepticism. "What does this food even mean? It doesn't look like what we're used to." The crowd murmured in agreement, and Sarah's heart sank like a stone. And then, unexpectedly, her father stepped forward, a beacon of courage amidst the shadows of doubt. "What this food represents," he said, voice rising above the crowd, "is a bridge between our past and present. It tells stories of our ancestors, stories that echo through us today." The crowd quieted, curiosity beginning to replace their skepticism. Sarah felt her breath hitch, a mix of fear and hope. Could her father's wisdom turn the tide? As he spoke, Sarah caught glimpses of understanding on the faces around her. She saw the way some people leaned in a bit closer, intrigued. Maybe, just maybe, they could break down the wall that separated them from the rich tapestry of culture Sarah yearned to share. But then another issue arose. The judges began to whisper amongst themselves, their brows furrowing. One of them, a woman with sharp features and a no-nonsense demeanor, shook her head. "This is all very nice, but does it really belong in a competition?" The words slashed through the air, cutting deep. Sarah felt her heartbeat quicken, her chest tightening. Would they dismiss all her hard work, all the love she poured into her cooking, simply because it wasn't what they expected? With her children watching, she realized this was her moment, not just to prove herself but to redefine what it meant to belong. "Today is not just about winning," she said, her voice rising with conviction. "It's about sharing who we are, our history, and opening doors to understanding." But would that be enough? The judges exchanged looks, the townsfolk stared, and everything felt like it hung in the balance. The future was uncertain, but so was her determination. Would they embrace her truth? Would history finally be acknowledged? Sarah held her breath as the judges prepared to make their decision, knowing that the outcome would shape everything. The tension in the air was thick enough to slice with a knife. Sarah's heart raced, and she could feel the weight of her children's hopeful gazes. Would their family story be enough? The judges continued their hushed discussions. Sarah's father remained steadfast, his body language radiating a quiet strength. She caught his eye, seeking reassurance. He gave her a slight nod, as if to say, "You've already won by being authentic." That gave her a little courage, but it was still hard to shake the doubt that crept in like a shadow. "Perhaps we should give them a moment," the head judge finally suggested. Silence fell as she slowly perused the colorful dishes on the table. The air had shifted, the diners whispered to each other, and Sarah could hear fragments like belonging and heritage float around. Ben leaned toward her, eyes wide. "Are they going to say something?" "Just wait and see, buddy," Sarah whispered, willing herself not to show the anxiety bubbling up beneath her skin. Then, one of the other judges, a kind-looking man with gentle eyes, spoke up. "I feel like we need to hear more from you, Sarah. What does this stew mean to you?" There it was. The chance to lay her heart bare. She took a deep breath, the scent of her dish lingering in the air, and began, "This stew is my childhood on a plate. It's not just food. It's warmth on a cold day. It's a reminder of family gatherings, and of my mother's laughter as she taught me how to stir the pot. It brings me back to the times when I felt a sense of belonging." The judges seemed to lean in, and Sarah poured everything into her words. Each ingredient has a story, from the corn we harvested as a family to the herbs my grandmother taught me to collect at dawn. When we share this meal, we're sharing a piece of our history. A murmur of understanding swept through the crowd. Her heart began to swell. Maybe this was enough. Perhaps they could see beyond the unfamiliarity to the heart of what she was giving them. Food can bridge gaps, she continued, passion igniting her voice. It connects us to our roots and to each other. Our differences make us stronger. A moment of silence followed her words. The judges exchanged looks again. That same no-nonsense woman finally spoke up, her brow furrowing in thought. You make an excellent point, Sarah. It's important to embrace diversity in food, just as we do in our community. I can see how much this means to you. Suddenly, there was a clap from the back of the audience. Sarah turned and saw an older woman with tears in her eyes standing up. Thank you for sharing this. The applause grew, infectious in its warmth. Sarah felt tears prick at her own eyes yet again, as hope flickered brighter than before. Just when she thought things might take a turn, the head judge spoke again, his voice steady but careful. You have given us much to consider. However, winning today means more than a beautiful story. It also means delivering a flawless dish. Her heart sank a little. And while we appreciate the flavors and the stories attached to them, we need to see them reflected in your technique. Sarah could feel her breath hitch in her throat. Were they going to judge her based on technicality over passion? She clenched her fists, a fire igniting inside her. Let me show you. I can make this dish even better. The room fell silent again. Excuse me? The head judge replied, eyebrows raised. Yes. I want another chance. I want to prove that every bite deserves to tell a story, that the artistry of cooking ties into the heart of who we are. Could she truly turn the tide one more time? Rising, she spared a glance back at her children, who now stood with anticipation etched on their faces. Mom, you can do it! Lily called out, her voice brimming with excitement. With renewed determination, Sarah stepped forward, ready to dive deeper into her culinary journey in front of the judges. But now, tempered with a fierce realization of what really mattered, the truth of her heritage. What obstacles lay ahead? Would the judges give her a second chance to prove herself? Sarah's heart hammered, and the uncertainty loomed, but more than that, hope flickered brightly in her chest. She may have been on the brink of something amazing. With the spotlight on her, Sarah knew she was just getting started. What would she craft next in this transformative journey? The judges exchanged glances, the room buzzing with renewed energy. Every set of eyes was trained on Sarah, and she could feel their impatience mingling with her own anticipation. The head judge leaned in, intrigue playing across his features. All right, Sarah. If you believe you can improve upon what you've presented, then show us what you've got, he finally said, his voice steady yet inviting. With a determined nod, Sarah stepped back to her station and took a deep breath. She glanced back at her family, finding strength in their warm smiles. She glanced at the ingredients still laid out before her: fresh vegetables, spices, and herbs, gifts from the earth and memories tied to each. She set to work, moving with a newfound urgency. As she chopped, she poured her heart into each slice of onion, feeling the dissolve of her doubts into the rhythm of the knife against the cutting board. The sound filled the air, a steady beat that matched her racing heartbeat. Mom, do you want us to help? Ben asked, his eyes sparkling with eagerness. Just keep cheering me on, she said, flashing her son a grateful smile. She seared the meat in the pot, letting the sizzle and rich aroma envelop her. It was a dance, every motion intentional. Memories danced in her mind, the laughter of her children echoed faintly in the background. Each ingredient called to her, begging to be mixed into something beautiful, something that showcased the lessons passed down through generations. As she combined the various spices, she found herself weaving in stories. This paprika is from the same market where Grandma used to take me, Sarah murmured, squeezing every ounce of love into her work. And these herbs? I collected them with her at dawn. Time blurred. The dish evolved before her eyes, transforming from a simple stew to a vibrant tapestry of flavors. She reached for the final ingredient, a touch of honey, to bring out the balance of the dish. It was tea, just the sweetener. It represented the sweetness of family, of shared moments around the table. The judges watched closely, their expressions shifting from skepticism to intrigue. In that moment, Sarah felt more than a competitor, she felt like an artist unveiling her soul. With one last stir, she plated the meal with care, arranging it like a work of art. When she set the dish before the judges, it gleamed with pride. "I hope you can taste the love and history in this stew," she said, feeling an undeniable surge of confidence. The head judge inhaled deeply, his eyes widening as he took in the aroma. "All right, I think we're ready to taste." As the judges took their first bites, Sarah held her breath. The world around her faded, leaving just that moment. Their expressions shifted as they savored the flavors. The kind man who had encouraged her earlier nodded slowly, while the no-nonsense judge's brow furrowed in concentration. Jeers and chatter filled the room, but nothing mattered more than the warm surge of hope in her chest. "Sarah," the kind judge said finally, looking up in awe. "This is extraordinary. It feels alive." The crowd erupted in applause again, and Sarah's heart soared. This was the validation of everything: the hard work, the memories, the raw emotion. It was more than a dish. It was a bridge to her ancestors and the stories they carried. But just as she began to imagine winning, the head judge cleared his throat again. "We need to discuss what this means for the competition." Could her dreams be shattering just as they began to rise? Would technicality be her downfall? As the room hung in suspense, her children bounced on their toes, their excitement palpable. "Mom, you've got this!" Lily cheered, drawing the room into a sea of supportive energy. Sarah stood there at the crossroads of triumph and uncertainty, ready for whatever verdict was about to come. But would it be a win or a lesson? The air was electric with anticipation, leaving everyone on the edge of their seats, hungry for the next development in Sarah's journey. What would the judges decide? The head judge leaned back in his chair, his fingers tapping lightly on the table, creating a rhythm that matched the anxious thumping of Sarah's heart. The room felt as if it had drawn in a breath, everyone waiting for his next words. At that moment, Sarah's mind raced. What if they didn't like her dish? All the hours, the moments spent in her kitchen, the nostalgic memories of her grandmother stirring the pot beside her, had it all been for nothing? "Before we announce our decision, I'd like to hear more about your inspiration, Sarah," the head judge said, catching her off guard. She straightened, drawn back into the present. Words poured out of her, the stories spilling like the ingredients in her stew. "It's my grandmother's recipe adapted with what I've learned over the years. Every taste, every smell, it connects me to her. Cooking was our way of sharing love. It was how we faced life's challenges." The audience absorbed her words, and she could see understanding in their eyes. She felt the warmth of her children's support like a shield. "Family meals aren't just about the food," she continued, her voice gaining strength. "They're about the stories we tell, the laughter we share. It's a tradition, a reminder that we are part of something bigger." The emotional weight of her words hung in the air as the judges nodded, some writing notes, others looking thoughtful. "What Sarah has done is remarkable," said the kind judge. "This dish is not just nourished with ingredients, but also steeped in history." Applause erupted once again, louder this time. Sarah beamed, feeling the collective spirit lift her. She had revealed not just a dish but part of her soul. Yet even amid the applause, uncertainty hovered. The judges still had to deliberate, and the stakes felt impossibly high. Sarah's family leaned in closer, their faith tightening around her like a safety net. After what felt like an eternity, the head judge cleared his throat again, silencing the chatter. "All right. After much discussion, we've come to a conclusion." He glanced around the panel, the intensity in his gaze drawing even more attention. "Sarah, you brought something truly special to the table today, a sense of history and connection." The judges nodded in agreement as he continued, however, pleasing a crowd isn't just about heart. "We have to consider the technical aspects, as well." "Of course," Sarah replied, her voice steady despite her racing thoughts. "I understand. But despite this, you've shown us remarkable promise." the flavor, the story. You're going to move forward in this competition, he announced, and the room erupted once more. Joy flooded through Sarah, lifting her spirits. Cheers and hugs enveloped her as she turned to her family, tears prickling at the corners of her eyes. "We did it!" she exclaimed, squeezing them in an embrace. In all the excitement, the head judge's voice broke through again. "But remember, each round will be harder than the last. Prepare yourself for the next challenge." The reality of the journey hit her. There would be more stress, more stakes. As the crowd began to disperse and the judges moved on to the next contestant, Sarah's mind raced ahead. What half-cooked ideas would present themselves? What flavors would she need to master next? Or even more daunting, would she be able to continue balancing her family, her passion, and the escalating competitiveness? In that whirlwind of emotions, Sarah smiled through her uncertainty. Perhaps the next dish would test not just her cooking skills, but also her heart. As she turned to her children, exuberant and hopeful, they were already chattering about their favorite moments, reminding her of the laughter they would share. But the nagging question lingered: what if the next challenge required more than just a recipe? What if it demanded something much deeper? With her heart pounding and a sense of determination igniting within her, Sarah was ready to find out. Sarah stood in the aftermath of her triumph, a bittersweet elation washing over her. The audience had parted, leaving her family basking in the glow of a recent success, yet she felt an undercurrent of unease swirling beneath the surface. Yes, she had advanced, but what awaited her in the next round? As the adrenaline began to fade, the reality of the upcoming challenge loomed larger than life. "Mom! That was amazing!" Her son, Ethan, cheered, tugging at her sleeve with bright eyes. "Your stew was the best." "Thanks, buddy," she replied, ruffling his hair, her heart swelling with pride. But inside, doubts began to creep in. She couldn't help but wonder if the judges would still feel the same excitement for her cooking when faced with tougher contenders. "Let us celebrate tonight," her daughter Mia exclaimed, her enthusiasm contagious. "Can we go get ice cream?" "Sure, ice cream sounds great," Sarah said, forcing a smile despite her racing thoughts. Her children deserved a treat, and she couldn't let her worries taint their joy. As they made their way to the nearby ice cream shop, the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange. The world felt vibrant, and for a moment she absorbed the beauty around her. Once inside the shop, they eagerly scanned the colorful array of flavors. Mia's eyes lit up as she pointed to the bright blue cotton candy swirl, while Ethan was drawn to chocolate fudge. Sarah picked a classic vanilla, hoping its simplicity would ground her swirling thoughts. "Here's to you, Mom!" Ethan raised his cone, and they clinked their ice cream together, laughter bubbling over. But amid the laughter, a nagging voice whispered doubts in her ear. That night, while tucking her children into bed, exhaustion hit her like a freight train. As she kissed them goodnight, she felt a wave of love wash over her, chasing away the doubts momentarily. Still, sleep eluded her. In the stillness of her room, she lay awake, replaying her performance in her mind. The taste of victory now tasted bittersweet. The next day dawned with a fierce determination. She made a commitment to herself: she would give everything to the next challenge. She would let her cooking evolve, just as she had. As the day unfolded, Sarah pulled out notebooks, collected family recipes, and began experimenting with flavors, her kitchen buzzing with life once again. As she chopped and stirred, the aroma of herbs filled the air, sparking that familiar warmth within her. Memories of her grandmother, the sound of her laughter, the wisdom in her words encouraged Sarah to push beyond her limits. The kitchen was a sanctuary, and creating magic through food was her calling. Suddenly, her phone buzzed on the counter, startling her. It was a text from one of the contestants. "Get ready. Next challenge is all about cultural fusion. It'll be a tough one." Cultural fusion? The wheels in Sarah's mind began to turn. What could she create that honored her heritage while showcasing her journey? A dish that reflected her family, her history, and her growth. The possibilities felt endless, but as excitement surged, a fresh wave of anxiety followed. Would she be able to blend the traditional with the new successfully? Staring out the window, the words of her grandmother echoed, nudging her confidence. Trust your heart. The flavors you feel are the ones that matter. With renewed resolve, Sarah dove headfirst into her preparations, eager to channel every ounce of her experience into this next dish. But deep down, she knew the new challenge was not just about food. It was about grappling with her identity, her roots, and the love she poured into every meal. With the clock ticking down to the next round, Sarah felt the pressure mount. She needed to pioneer her path through this culinary journey, and soon, she would learn that the most profound flavors are often forged in the fires of vulnerability. As she measured out her ingredients, a thought struck her: what if this time, she could inspire not just the judges, but a whole generation? With that electrifying thought, she rolled up her sleeves, knowing that the next challenge awaited, a challenge that would push her to the very core of who she was. As Sarah began to season her mixture, she felt the flames of determination rise, preparing to face whatever came next. The kitchen buzzed with energy as Sarah stood before her countertop. A rainbow of ingredients sprawled in front of her. Each item held a promise, a story waiting to be told. As she sliced through vibrant bell peppers and the earthy aroma of cumin filled the air, Sarah felt the fusion of cultures coming alive. She was crafting not just a dish but a narrative, a tapestry woven from the threads of her past and the flavors of her present. She closed her eyes for a moment, envisioning her grandmother bustling about in her own kitchen, hands expertly kneading dough and stirring soups. Those cherished memories ignited a flame within her. "I can do this," Sarah whispered, a faint smile playing on her lips. "I'll make a dish that honors our roots and builds a bridge to new experiences." As the hours passed, she began experimenting fervently. What if she combined the rich, hearty flavor of a traditional stew with spices that spoke of her explorations? She could infuse it with hints of cilantro and lime and homage to her travels while remaining true to her childhood palate. Each stir of the pot filled her with enthusiasm, an exhilarating dance between comfort and adventure. Just as she layered the flavors, her phone chimed again, this time with a picture from Mia. The little girl had made her own fridge art, a multicolored masterpiece declaring, "Go, Mommy!" surrounded by drawings of happy family dinners. Sarah's heart swelled. It wasn't just competition, it was her children's kindness that fueled her resolve. But soon, the excitement faded into contemplation as she glanced at the clock. Time was slipping away like grains of sand through her fingers. Had she done enough? Would her creation truly honor the spirit of cultural fusion? The pressure began to gnaw at her, tightening around her chest. Would the judges see the heart behind the dish, or would they only focus on its imperfections? She shook her head, refusing to let fear win. "Trust your heart," she murmured, just like her grandmother used to say. Closing her eyes, she focused on the flavors she wanted to convey: the warmth of community, the richness of history, and the zest of growth. Moments later, the kitchen was filled with the rhythmic sound of bubbling broth. Lifting the lid, the fragrant steam enveloped her, and a smile broke across her face. It was more than just a meal. It was a bridge, a means of connection. A voice deeper than the competition itself urged her on: "This is who you are." Sarah spent the evening plating her dish, each garnish deliberate and thoughtful, like brushstrokes on a canvas. Then came the taste test, her boldest move yet. She filled a small bowl with the final product and took a hesitant bite. The explosion of flavors danced on her tongue, rich, spicy, and yet undeniably familiar. Yet even as satisfaction washed over her, a shadow lingered. What if the judges didn't feel the same? What if her bold idea fell flat? With every moment that drew closer to the competition, the doubt crept back, whispering its uncertainty in her ear like an uninvited guest. With her heart racing and the taste of her creation still lingering, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that the real challenge was not just in what she had to present but in the courage to expose her heart through her food. As she put the final touches on her dish, a sudden thought jolted her. What if she didn't just honor her culture but inspired others to share their own stories? Can a dish truly create connection, transforming judgment into celebration? With renewed determination pulsing through her veins, Sarah stood tall, ready to give it her all. Tomorrow would not only be a contest, it would be her moment to embrace vulnerability and authenticity. As she placed the final dish in the fridge, a deep breath filled her lungs, and for the first time, she proceeded with a whisper of belief. Would her heart resonate with the judges in the same way it did with her family? Tomorrow would unveil that truth. The morning light streamed through the kitchen window, casting a warm glow over everything. Sarah stirred awake, the weight of the competition settling heavily on her heart. Today was the day. Her mind raced, replaying every moment from the night before. She could still taste that delightful stew, a concoction of love and heritage. With a quick glance at the fridge, she reassured herself it was still safe, waiting for the moment it would shine. As she prepared for the day, she poured herself a generous cup of coffee. The familiar scent filled her with comfort and revitalized her spirit. She thought about the judges, their expressions, and the way they'd savor each bite. Would they see the vulnerabilities entwined in every ingredient? With a resolute nod, she reminded herself of her grandmother's words, "Food is love, serve it with your heart." The kitchen filled with the sounds of sizzling as Sarah set to work once more. The preparations seemed alive, as if the utensils danced to the rhythm of her racing pulse. She carefully selected fresh herbs, the vibrant greens adding a flurry of life to the dreary tension. Could these little details sway the judges to see beyond mere flavors, to not just taste but feel? As she stepped out for a moment, the busy street greeted her. It felt like the world was bustling on its merry way, oblivious to her soaring nerves. Shuffling along, she spotted Mia and Jacob, her children, drawing chalk art on the sidewalk, completely absorbed in their creativity. They were her anchors, her motivation. She crouched next to them, squeezing them tightly. "How are my little artists today?" Mia beamed, showing off her colorful masterpiece of a sun. "I made this so you can shine too, Mommy." Tears threatened to spill as she absorbed Mia's innocence and faith. "Thank you, sweetheart. You've inspired me," Jacob chimed in, holding up his own drawing of a pot of food. "Is that what you're making today? I hope it's yummy." With laughter bubbling up, she couldn't help but smile. Sharing this moment reminded her that her journey transcended the competition. It was about legacy, love, and family. As they played together for a brief moment, warmth and joy enveloped her. Returning to the kitchen, Sarah felt renewed. She meticulously checked her ingredients, a rhythm building within her, like a heartbeat in motion. But as she gathered everything, an unsettling thought prickled the back of her mind. What if her story didn't resonate after all? Taking a deep breath, she closed her eyes once more. "This is my voice," she affirmed aloud. "I'm not just a contestant, I'm a storyteller." With renewed fervor, Sarah plated the stew before her. She artfully arranged the garnish, each piece echoing the love she had infused into every step of the cooking process. It was more than presentation, it was purpose. "I believe in this," she whispered, tracing her finger around the dish as if sealing her promise. Soon, it was time to head to the venue. As she slipped the dish into a cooler bag, her heart raced with anticipation and fear. She stepped outside, taking in the fresh air one last time before her big reveal. The competition awaited, filled with unknown faces and judges who would decide her path. But as Sarah drove, a thought washed over her. What if this moment was not just about winning but about creating a space for connection? A chance to spark conversations, ignite curiosity, and celebrate the beauty of diversity through the universal language of food. Could she inspire others as her grandmother had inspired her? As she parked and gathered her bag, she could feel the weight of the moment ahead, burning with both anxiety and determination. With one last glance at her reflection in the rearview mirror, she whispered, "I've got this," before stepping boldly toward the unknown. Would her creation spark a transformation beyond the competition? Would her courage touch someone else's heart today? The doors loomed before her, hinting at a world waiting to be discovered. As Sarah stepped through the heavy doors of the venue, a surprising wave of warmth enveloped her. The air was thick with anticipation, like the rich aroma of spices in her kitchen. Competitors and guests milled about, each lost in their own pre-show rituals. But for Sarah, every glance and every laugh was a reminder that she was not alone in this. She was part of something larger, The stage glittered under soft lights, a backdrop for dreams and ambitions. A table stood at the center, its pristine surface waiting to showcase the culinary masterpieces. She marveled at the sight of elegant plates and colorful garnishes, the stories behind each one swirling in her mind. "First time?" A voice interrupted her thoughts. It belonged to an older woman with a twinkle in her eye and flour dusted on her apron. "Yeah. I hope I can find the courage to share my dish," Sarah admitted, forcing a smile through her nerves. The woman laughed gently. "Courage comes from sharing your heart. Remember, you don't just serve food, you share your story." With those words echoing in her mind, Sarah made her way to the back, finding a spot to focus and gather her thoughts. She envisioned Mia and Jacob, their smiles fueling her resolve. She tightened her grip on the cooler bag that held her precious stew, feeling a surge of energy course through her veins. Moments later, she was called to the prep area. Steel pots clanged and simmering aromas wafted through the air, a compelling symphony. As she set up her space, she caught snippets of conversations around her, brilliant hints from fellow competitors, laughter shared over a spilled sauce, the bold claims of a rival determined to pull a fast one. Her heart thudded with a mix of excitement and dread. Would her humble creation stand strong against such culinary talent? Then, just as she finished organizing her workspace, she noticed a tall man with a serious demeanor, dressed sharply in a chef's coat, approaching her table. As he introduced himself as one of the judges, time seemed to slow. He scrutinized her every move, and the weight of his gaze pressed down hard. "Tell me about your dish," he urged, his tone both authoritative and intrigued. Sarah felt her throat dry, words trying to form but getting tangled in her mind. This was the moment where storytelling met food. Taking a deep breath, she leaned into her memories, the sunlit kitchen of her childhood flashing before her eyes. "This stew is a symbol of my grandmother's love. Each ingredient holds a story, just like our family. It's not just spicy or savory, it's a maze of flavors that represent resilience and togetherness." Her voice steadied with determination. The judge's eyebrows raised slightly, interest piqued. "Resilience? I'd love to hear more about that." Just then, a commotion erupted from the front of the venue, a successive series of claps and cheers. Heads turned, and Sarah instinctively followed the sound. A contestant was presenting their dish, showcasing flamboyant techniques that sparked applause from the crowd. A flicker of doubt struck her, but she quickly buried it. This wasn't just about winning, it was about being heard, about leaving an impression. They would see her truth. With her heart pounding fiercely, Sarah gathered her ingredients for the final preparation. The clock was ticking, and she felt the pressure of time slipping through her fingers like sand. What if she faltered in front of these judges? But instead, she recalled her children's excitement, the way they believed in her. She grinned, a mere whisper of a prayer crossing her mind. This was her moment. As she plated her dish, every movement felt decisive, each sprinkle of garnish akin to stitching together the fabric of her story. Just as she placed the final touch, a sudden gasp echoed through the crowd. The buzz of excitement dimmed. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have a surprise guest judge today." Sarah paused, her hands trembling against the plate. She turned towards the source of the announcement, heart racing anew. What did that mean for all of them? Her breath caught as she witnessed a familiar face emerge from the shadows, someone who could change everything in an instant. It was her father, standing there in the spotlight, his presence electrifying the air around them. Sarah's heart jumped. He hadn't just returned to her life, he was standing as a testament to the journey she had taken, the journey they would now share. A wave of emotion swirled inside her: surprise, joy, confusion. "Dad," she breathed, feeling everything inside her crack open like a floodgate. Memories rushed in: his laughter, the family dinners they used to share, the warmth of his embrace, now tangled with the pain of years lost. Here he was, ready to see her, to taste her legacy. But as the tender emotions shifted, reality set in. Today was a competition. This wasn't the moment to rewind the past. This was about presenting her dish with pride. She took a deep breath, letting his presence ignite the fire within her. He was here to witness the woman she had become, the mother, the chef, the storyteller. "Welcome, Sarah," he said, his voice carrying a humility that struck her heart. "I've always known you had greatness in you." She met his gaze, and in that instant, she felt an unspoken bond start to mend. This was her moment to show not only the judges but also her father who she was, who they were, together. As the clock ticked down, Sarah stood before the table, ready to share her creation. "Today, I present to you a fusion of my heritage and my hopes. It's a stew embodied with spices from my roots and flavors from the world I've explored." She could see the judges leaning in, intrigued by her passion. With careful movements, she plated her dish, an artful swirl of colors and aromas, vibrant and reassuring, just like the love she felt for her children and her heritage. "This dish tells the story of resilience, the resilience of my grandmother, who taught me to embrace every ounce of my identity and experience. Eating it isn't just about tasting, it's about feeling a connection, bridging generations." A pause filled the air, thick with anticipation. She caught her father's encouraging nod, a belief she had missed for so long. One by one, the judges eagerly sampled the food. Each bite elicited reactions, considered nods, broad smiles. Sarah watched with bated breath. Then, the head judge spoke, his tone a mix of admiration and contemplation. "Sarah, your dish takes us on a journey. It's bold, it's comforting, and it sings with history." Applause erupted, lifting her spirits higher. Each clap was a reminder of the journey, the struggles, and triumphs now beautifully intertwined. "Dad," Sarah whispered, her voice breaking with awe. She glanced his way, and he was beaming fiercely, vulnerable and proud. It was a moment that bound them, transcending their past. As the judges deliberated, Sarah's heart danced between fear and hope. And then came the announcement. "While this was a fiercely competitive round, we are excited to declare that the heart of the competition stays true to those who share their stories. And for that reason, Sarah, you are advancing to the next round." Joy erupted like fireworks within her chest. Her children jumped up, their ecstatic cheers drawing laughter from everyone around. Sarah's heart swelled with gratitude, grateful for the opportunity, for their legacy, for her father back in her life. As the crowd began to disperse, she rushed to her father, tears of joy welling in her eyes. "I'm so glad you're here. I never imagined you'd see this part of my life." He enveloped her in a warm hug, a reassuring embrace, whispering, "I've missed so much. I want to be part of it now. Let us write a new story together." In that moment, Sarah felt not just her heart heal but a new sense of belonging, one that radiated through her family. Together, they had navigated the complexities of reconciliation, love, and identity. As they left the venue, hand in hand, the possibilities ahead glimmered as bright as the harvest moon above them. Sarah knew the next challenges would demand her all, but she was ready, and this was the start of a new beginning, not just for herself but for her family, and the stories they would share through every meal they crafted together. The journey wasn't just about winning, it was about coming together, reclaiming their place, and celebrating who they truly were. Now, if you've been touched by this journey, you need to subscribe to the channel immediately. Don't wait not even one more second to support us by hitting that like button. We want to hear your thoughts. Comment below and share how this story made you feel. And please share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Your engagement makes all the difference.